Congratulations on the purchase of your Quick Tree Pixel Megatree. To complete your tree, you'll need a few other items usually available from most common hardware stores. Now, these instructions are generic in nature because each individual installation is going to be unique. You may be dealing with specific soil conditions such as sandy, rocky, or loamy soils. You may be dealing with specific sized megatrees such as 25 or higher height trees. Or you may be dealing with a specific environmental condition, such as high winds or uneven ground. So some adaptation may be required for your particular installation. Now, what you will receive in your kit is your controller, you'll receive your topper, you'll receive some mounting strip, some zip ties, string reliefs, and the lights themselves. Now, they may look a little different as we have updated our design over the years. So let's go through this particular installation. Now, the first thing you want to do is look to see what the height of your tree is. Now, you may have a custom tree that has been specifically designed for your needs. So if so, adapt that to your specific needs. If you're using one of our standard size trees, such as 8.5, 10.8, or 12.5, this will provide more specific answers to your questions. Okay, now, first thing we need to do is we need a place to put all those pixels. And that is done via the topper. Now, depending on your particular tree, you'll either receive a QT2, which is designed typically for 360 or 270-degree trees, so larger trees, not as common, or you'll receive the QT8. And the QT8 is a smaller unit and it is basically half of a unit. So here is the QT8 and here is a QT2. Now, in these units, what you're going to know is some standard functions that are in here. So on the outside, we have little dog ears, and these dog ears allow you to mount your support wires or your guy wires. Now, those are not the only places you can put your guy wires. You can also mount them on the inside, and you'll see that there's some on the inside. Now, you may need more than three, and there are mounting holes on the inside for 3 or 4. And you can see those here, 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 and here. And you can see the guy wires here. So in this particular unit, you would put a guy wire here, here, and here, or you could mount them internally. Now, also in this unit is a large hole that's offset. You can see that here and here, and that is to pass any cables you may have that are designed for the star. So if you have an optional star in your tree, those cable would pass through that hole. Now, on the QT2 and the QT8, we have a center hole cut out, and that is initially designed for what's called top rail fence post, and we'll get into that and show you some photos of that. That pole can slip right through here, and we can see that there are some little slots along the side that use some nuts that are included with the order, and they will actually compress against the pole, creating a non-slip connection onto the pole. Now, you'll also notice that there are some little divots. So here, 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 and here. Now, those holes do not go all the way through the units. They are simply divots to show you where you can drill them out. Now, again, as I mentioned, this particular product is highly customizable specific to your installation. So depending upon the type of mounting you're going to use, you may need to use one or the other. Now, in this particular case, that is pre-marked divots for use with what's called a floor flange, and we'll show you those in a little while. All right, so we're going to assume that we're going to build something on the QT8, which is more common. All right, now also a few other things to note on these units. In addition to all the holes you have here for mounting the guy wires and such, we also have the mounting strips, and you'll notice that they're alternating. So they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this is so that the pixels can be as tight as possible. So if we look here, you can see that we have strips, and there's one in front one in back, one in front, one in back. And what this allows is to have very, very tight pixel spacing so that one's in front and one's in back. So when we do go to mount those, we will interleave them. All right. Now, let's go ahead and start off with pole selection. So, as I mentioned, we can use a product called top rail fence post. Now, let me point out that on this product page, this is product item number 750, so you can just type 750 in the search box. There are some links down here at the bottom, and they have links to products directly on Lowe's, Menards, Home Depot, and such. Now, you can, if you're using a smaller tree, in particular 10-foot or 8-foot, use the poles that come from Home Depot and such, called a top rail fence post. Now, this product is actually designed for use in chain link fencing. So if you've seen chain link fencing, it's going horizontally across the top. That chain link is held up by a pole, and that is this pole. Now, most notable about this pole is you can see that it's swedged at the end. So it's compressed, so it slides into the next pole. So this is what goes into the top of the topper. So if you have this hole, you can see that there's a hole right here, and that simply slides into there. So if we go up here, we can actually see an example of this. You can see that it's swedged. This one's not black. This one's galvanized, and it's sliding in here. And then you would put screws in the top. So this is showing the underside. Now, there's some pros and cons. Now, the top rail fence post is easy, inexpensive, and requires minimal amounts of components. So you just slide it on, you put the screws in, and you're done. It is not designed for heavy installations, such as a 360 tree. May be past the capacity of this particular product. Now, these particular gauges or thicknesses vary by manufacturer. You can see that it's listed as 17 gauge here. So, if you have any concerns with wind loads, weights, or other situations, consider what is the best solution for you. This is considered a low end or simple or low stress type installation with top rail fence post. Now, the next possible options are to use what's called black pipe. Black pipe is simply just gas piping, usually available in 1, 1.5, and 2-inch diameters. This is significantly stronger than top rail fence post, and it has the added advantage of having threaded connections on the end. And it's also available in pre-made links. You can also have it custom made in most stores, so you can have a very specific amount cut and then made with pre-cut threaded ends on it in the store. And you can see it's roughly here about the same price as top rail fence post. Now, to mount this, what we need is we need a way to get this post or this pipe into the topper. Now, it doesn't fit in that hole if using black pipe. So what we use is we use a floor flange. So this threads onto our pipe here. It's got little protectors shown here, the red things. Those come off. Those are plastic. And so you would thread your pipe onto this floor flange. Now, typically what we would do is we would have you mount a floor flange on the top and on the bottom, and that helps with sinking into the ground. You do still normally need some sort of brick or strong surface. It obviously depends on your particular soil structure and how much it might sink into the ground. So on the surface, on the ground, you can actually put large nails through these and to keep it from moving around so the center pole doesn't shift if it's hit. And then on the top, what we do is we actually bolt it on. Now, as mentioned before, there are holes marked in here, and you can see those here. And they vary based upon the particular floor flange size you end up getting, inch or inch and a half, 2-inch. So you would need to drill the remaining holes all the way through and add 1/4-inch bolts. So the 1/4-inch bolts typically are 1.5 inches long. So the length of the bolt is 1.5 inches because the material here that the quick tree topper is 3/4 of an inch. So you need to go through the floor flange into this. Now, the other advantage of using the floor flange and the pipe method is that you can then put another floor flange on the opposing side, on the top side of your product. And what that allows is you to then screw on an additional section of pipe, such as 2 to 3 feet, depending upon your particular design, and then mount onto that a star. And allows everything to be easily disconnectable and assemblable in multiple sections. Okay, so that covers our general area there. Again, just as a reminder, you can scroll down here. You can also see QT3 and QT4, and there are a lot of the links for the 1-inch pipe couplers. If you need additional lengths of pipe, you can couple 2 pieces of pipe together. So for example, if you need 15 foot, you could go 10 plus 5, and so on. All right. The next thing we need to do is we have our pipe or our conduit, and it's going through the topper. Now we need to make that topper and that pipe stand in one place and not move. So to do that, we need to secure it with ground anchors. So let's go ahead and take a look at some ground anchors. So what we have here is anchors that can be either fancy or simple. It's totally up to you and your budget and your preferences, and most importantly, your soil conditions. Now, all soil conditions are going to differ by your particular location. So if you live in a very rocky area, you may need to get one type of soil or securing method. If you live in a very windy area with lots of wind loads, you may need 4 as opposed to 3 anchor points. You may need very lengthy anchors due to, let's say, sandy conditions, such as in Florida or Arizona. So these anchors can be pretty much anything. They are usually referred to as tie-down hardware. You can see some here, and these types are the pigtail types that screw into the ground, and then you have an anchor point here. Now, what we do is, once we have our anchor in the ground, again, we can have either 3 or 4. You have to have a minimum of 3, but you can have up to 4. It all depends upon your particular size of megatree and also the wind loads, the dimensions, your preferences, those types of things. Now, once you've got your anchor in the ground, you need a way to secure it. This is just another method. You can use rebar, in this case, 1/2-inch rebar, 2 foot long, just in the ground. Of course, make sure to protect the ends when you put that in there. You can then secure that with rope. So this is commonly referred to as paracord, and paracord is just very inexpensive nylon rope, and this allows you to simply attach that to the anchor point and then to the top up at the topper. Now, that's one option. You can also use galvanized steel wire rope. This is a little more advanced. You don't even have to have it vinyl coated if you don't want. I personally prefer that. It keeps the little pokey parts inside the wire rope. This is a bit stronger and often thinner, but at a little bit higher cost typically. Now, if you're using wire rope, instead of knots, you'll typically use one of these clamps. So you use clamps like this, you pull it taut, and then you pull it down. Now, you can also use, with some reservation, ratchet straps. So it is possible to use ratchet straps, and these are available at Harbor Freight, Home Depot, all these different places. And you can see usually they have a 500-pound rating, and they simply just allow you to ratchet down. One very important word of caution when using ratcheting straps. It can be very tempting to over-tighten the unit and crack it. The topper is made of plastic. It is very strong and outdoor marine rated plastic, but it can be cracked if tightened at several hundred pounds. So be aware that these can exert extensive amounts of pressure. Now, these do work well because they allow you to easily tweak the height and the width and get your unit perfectly straight. So if you need to go a little bit further on the left or a little bit further on the right, it allows you to crank it over here and then loosen it up on the other side. So these can be useful. So they serve not only to allow you to tweak it, but also to support it. Okay. Now, next on our list is strips. So the actual strips that go in there are, let's see if we can find these here. Whoops. Here. Oh, and these strips here are the Pixnote Extreme strips. In almost all cases, we would include Pixnote Extreme strip with your kit. We do sell an older product that's individual sections. This product generally comes on roll or multiple rolls, depending upon how much length you have. It's usually continuous. So for example, if you received 250 feet, normally it'd be one roll of 250 feet. Now, this product is punched on specific spacing. Now, it's sold specifically to your particular spacing. Now, when you get your product, on your packing slip, it will say not only your spacing, such as 2 inches, but also the spacing between each of the holes, such as 2 or 2.5 inches. And we can see some common amounts down here. So you can see this common 10.8, 12.5, and 8.5 height trees. Now, what this means is the spacing between each of the pixels increases. So the number of pixels on each string doesn't change on all of these megatrees that are commonly purchased. They simply have wider spacing between each one of the pixels to increase the height. And we can see that here. 2 inch, 2.5 inch, 3 inch, and so on. Now, what you can see here is how many degrees. So typically it's going to be 180. So if you had a 10.8 foot tall tree with an 8-foot diameter and 1 foot gap at the bottom with 50 pixels in each string using either a QT2 or in this case a QT8, you would have 2.5 inch spacing and you would have been sold 212 total feet at 2.5 inch spacing. Now, the easiest way to determine how much each of those string lengths or strip lengths need to be is simply just pull out your calculator. So if we have 212 and we have 16 strings, we just take 212 divided by 16, and we know that each of those strips needs to be from one end to the next 13.25 feet. Or if you had a 12.5 foot tree, you would put in 244 divided by 16 strings, 15.25 feet. So you would simply take the roll, pull off 15.25 feet, and cut it at that length. All right, so, 1 second here. What we want to do is then load that strip that we have. So let's just say that we have purchased or we have pulled off 13.25 feet. Now, let's go back and look at our topper here. So if we look at our topper, we're going to see that it has, and there's some videos here that show how to set this up, we have the strips going through the top. Now, this picture is a little bit older, so it shows that they're folded over. And on Extreme Strip, you do not need to fold it over. So what we do is we simply slide the strip in, and then we put zip ties. The zip ties, let's see here. I don't know if we have pictures of those. Does not appear so. The zip ties would have been included with your kit, and they look like this. We would simply put zip ties in the strip at the very top, and then they would get caught into, let's get here, these little notches. So you take the zip tie, put them through this hole right here, and this hole right here on the side going around the edges, and then they get caught in here. So you cut off the little tail of the zip tie. Now this is covered in a video that talks about how to install pixel node strip into the QuickTree topper. Now it does mention in this particular video to fold over the strip with Extreme Strip, which is all most current strips sold, do not require folding. Now, so this means that you're going to end up with a little bit of spot at the top, depending upon your size, that will not have any pixels. So we want to have you just go ahead and build one little piece and see where that pixel hole stops. So if you're not sure and you just want to get started, skip 2 holes at the top. So you take your 13.25 or 13.25 foot strip, start at the top, skip 2 holes, then start installing your pixels. Your pixels will start with the end that has no cable. So this is at the bottom. This is the extension cable that's typically used. Your input or the beginning of the cable will have the pins exposed. You can see that just like a normal plug. The top will have no plug, or typically will not have a plug. And you'll simply just start installing pixels in every single hole. You will not skip any holes. You'll just put a pixel in every single hole. You'll go down, in this particular case, if you have the standard Megatree here, you'll put pixels in each hole for a total of 50 pixels. You should then have a little bit of space at the bottom that is allowing for that 1 foot gap plus a little extra. And that is then terminated with these. This should be in your kit. This is the strain relief, and there is a video that explains how to attach the strips to this. But you can see that the basic process is to take the strip and simply pass it through this larger slot, fold it over, and then put 2 zip ties, again included with your kit, through the center to secure it to the tap. Now what this does is this spreads out the load. While this is not absolutely required, it does increase the likelihood that you will not have any problems with your mounting strip stretching out because the strip load is spread across the entire strip instead of just in the holes. Now these then get attached to individual stakes on the ground. So this is shown here with a large nail. So these are called landscaping nails. You can just find them in the hardware section. They're often about 8 to 12 inches, depends on your particular soil type. And they then simply just go into the ground and secure directly to the ground. So you'll simply just put the nail directly in the ground. All right, now just an FYI, this is how you get the pixels into the strips. This is using the jig. If you purchase this, this is optional. You simply put the strip in here. It holds the strip while allowing you to push the pixel through the strip, and then you slide it over. You can also screw this to a wooden table and allow you to more easily put those pixels in, because you do need to put about 800 typically into the strips. Now, we recommend building one complete string first. Just build out the whole thing. Make sure you're fully aware of how it works. And then once you have that process down, go ahead and complete the build of the rest of the strings. Typically, this will take just a few hours to complete. Now, we hope this has been helpful. If you have any additional questions which are not covered in this video or on the website, feel free to reach out to us at holidaycoro.com/contact us.